And I'll be, and okay, very good evening, folks. This is Paul, NO0T for the Front Range 6-meter group. And tonight we have Lance, W7GJ, going to give us a talk about his TO7GJ Dxpedition. And I'm going to throw it over to Lance and let you get started.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
I'm going to share.
And good evening to everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces and call signs out there. It's great to connect with you. Did you have something more to say, Paul?
No, I just wanted to make sure that the sharing was on for you.
Okay. Let me see here how we do this. Do you see it?
Not quite yet.
So you don't see it yet?
Nope.
Okay, let me see here how.
You're muted now, Lance.
I'm going to mute everybody and just unmute him.
I lost the whole screen here. I'm trying to share my screen. Do you see it?
Yeah, we see it now.
Okay, here we go. Okay. So in September, my wife and I went to Mayotte, and it was an interesting trip. You know, it was a 6-meter EME, primarily DXpedition. I was very disappointed from the standpoint that there were a lot of stations that I wanted to work, a lot of regular 6-meter EME stations that I was not able to contact for a number of different reasons. But I did work 100, so some people thought it was pretty successful. So I'll give you a little bit of information about the antenna sighting considerations, which were huge on this Dxpedition, and they always are very critical. And the QTH selection. I'll show you how the station and the antenna is set up in case you've not seen that before. I'll also give you a little bit of touristic information about Mayotte, which is not really a tourism destination. It's basically a third world country, but it's owned by France. And I'll go through the challenges that I had on this particular trip, summarize the results for you, and discuss possible improvements for the next Dxpedition. And then hopefully, if there's any time, we can have some questions or comments. And I'm hoping a discussion. Why did I pick Mayotte? Well, on my birthday dinner in the Seychelles, there was a W6 that joined us on the beach for dinner. And he said, boy, you should look at Mayotte. I think you can get there pretty easily. And so I researched it a little bit and found out that nobody in North America had ever contacted Mayotte on 6 meters before. So that was a big plus. It is the largest lagoon in the world. which I thought would be potentially a good place to go snorkeling for my wife. It's possible to travel there. We had just last year gone to French Polynesia, and even with the COVID things, the traveling to the French part of the world was not a problem. So that was a good sign. The local county health department said, hey, if you go there, you don't even have to worry about malaria. So I thought that was pretty good. And I found a place to stay, which was away from all the crime on Mayotte. So that was a positive thing.
Hey, Lance,
And it's
sorry to interrupt you there. We're just seeing the one slide, the opening slide, and I think you're going to the different. You're trying to go through different slides. I think you need to do something different.
Okay.
Maybe somebody on board here knows this thing better than I.
Let's see. Does that change the slide for you?
Not yet.
Huh. It
Yeah,
says I am.
Lance,
screen.
we're just seeing the main PowerPoint screen where you do editing. We're not seeing presentation mode.
I think you have to hit slideshow maybe.
Slideshow, view show. I'm on that.
Okay, well, we're seeing that's a different screen than the one you're sharing.
Right now, do you see my QSL card?
No.
Yes,
Well-
that's the only thing we see there is your QSL card. Is in the center of a editing screen. I see
Okay.
on the left side of your screen, I see all your slides like 1 through 4.
Oh, you do? Huh. You see this screen. So
Yes.
That's the one, yeah. You want to switch over to a different monitor, maybe.
let's see. How can I
I think you need to pick a different screen to share, probably.
yeah, I think you're right. Okay.
So you need to stop sharing this screen and pick the one that actually is the
Okay.
PowerPoint session.
Okay. Well, if I start the slideshow, now how do I?
You have to stop sharing this screen. Whatever. There you go.
Okay, I'm not sharing anymore. I'm not sharing with this group anymore. Okay, let me see. I haven't had this problem before, but I'm not quite sure.
When you say share, make sure that the screen you're looking at in the share is the right one.
Do you have the slideshow on your monitor somewhere?
Yeah, I do, but I can't view. Well, let's see. I can't view it, and it takes up the whole screen when I do that. Let's see.
Can you drag it over to the other monitor and try it again?
I don't have 2 monitors hooked up to it. Sorry. Let's see here. Sorry for the delay here.
Lance, do you want me to show the video, the first video, while you're doing that?
No, not yet. Not yet. Not yet.
I actually have a suggestion, Lance, which is to temporarily shut PowerPoint down on your desktop.
Okay.
And
I've
then,
done that.
okay, then do a screen share of your desktop. So we'll see your desktop and then start up PowerPoint again and try to put it into slide mode.
Okay, right now I'm trying to get back to the, okay, I can see everybody here now. So now I will start the PowerPoint again. And I'm looking for the share button, share screen. Share that. Now, do you see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
What we see is PowerPoint, the application.
Okay, now what do you see now?
That didn't change what we're seeing.
Yeah, just
Really?
It's really good.
Okay. So I'm going to try to advance it to the next slide.
You're there.
Do you see now what I want to talk about?
Yes.
Okay. So this is what I already talked about. I'm going to talk about antenna sighting and picking a spot. Show you how the station and the antenna are set up, provide a few touristic views of Mayotte, and tell you about the problems that I had, summarize the results, and discuss, hopefully in a group here, possible improvements for the next DXpedition. And hopefully we can have some comments and questions. Now I'm going to move to the next slide. Do you see why Mayotte?
We do.
Yeah. Yes, we do.
Yeah, working out.
Okay. All right. Nobody had ever worked it before. From the North America, big lagoon. It's possible to get there, relatively safe and healthy. And it's part of France. So it was easy to get licensed. Okay, and that picture there, you should see it shows where it is. It's in the Comoro Strait between Madagascar and Mozambique.
We see it.
Okay. It's a long way from anywhere, actually. Here's the spot that I picked. Can you see my mouse if I move my mouse around?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
This is the place down in the southwest. I picked this spot because I'd have an over ocean shot toward Europe and also on my moon set and also over ocean to South Africa. So, and it was a long way from the big population center is up here. This is the island with the airport and most of the activity. And this Momadzu is the biggest population center on the island. So this is really off the beaten path down here in the southwest tip of the island. So on Sunday morning, September 4th, we left Missoula Airport. We flew nonstop to Dallas and then overnight to Paris. And there I am celebrating that all the gear arrived in Paris. And then we had to switch terminals and fly overnight to Mayotte. And while we were waiting for the Air Austral flight to Mayotte, I saw this sign by the Air Austral ticket counter, and I thought, that is a very good sign. Look at that, to EME. And I said, okay, that's going the right direction. So we flew overnight And we're arriving at dawn on Tuesday, September 6th, 2 days after we left Montana. And this is a little bit more about how I arrived at the site. I was looking for something quiet and remote, an opportunity for ground gain on the horizon. This is something that I look for wherever I go. I need a certain amount of large space to set up and operate the antenna. I didn't quite find that. Antenna pointing away from the ham shack is ideal. Didn't quite find that. The antenna pointing away from noisy villages, I did find. And safe and secure, I could lock everything up. So that was not a problem. Reliable AC power we had, although the line voltage was a little low, but with a switching power supply, who cares? There was air conditioning in the bedroom, which was quite nice. And there was none out where I set up, but that's okay. But there was Wi-Fi. And this is the spot where the Airbnb is still right on the coast. You'll see it's north of the village, so I never point to the south at the village. The village is quite small. There's only about 100 people that live there, but to the north of it, which is, you know, I would start out pointing to the east and then go around to the west. So going through north, there was just this sports court here, which was active in the evenings with basketball players, but it didn't create any noise. So that's the location. So it was next to the beach, to the west, for great ground gain over the ocean, in theory. Never had to aim south at the village, only the basketball court to the north, short coaxial feed line to the antenna. It was the only available open space I could find along the west coast of the whole island. And that's what it looks like from Google Earth when you blow it up. Was in the little village in Mboanatsa, and that was the only place I could put the mast and have the antenna laid out and raise it. The negative site qualities were the yard was a little bit too small. There was a huge baobab tree at the west edge of the yard, right at the edge of the beach. And that wound up causing me some problems. The antenna will have to overhang the house when I point to the east. It was about 4 or 5 feet above the roof, the flat roof, which is reinforced concrete. So I'm sure that upset my pattern to a large extent when I was pointed east. And pointed west, the rear of the antenna was over the house, so I couldn't elevate more than 35 degrees. And the antenna raising will be very, very tight. So here's a layout of how things look on that diagram we saw from Google Earth. This is all to scale. And there's a fence, wooden fence along this side of the property here. And it's that was the only way that I could put up the antenna on a 24-foot mast and get it up in the air and avoid all the trees. In fact, the last director needed to be added after the beam was already placed on the mast, and the Yagi was turned mostly vertical because I didn't have enough clearance to put it on before. And I found that I could remove some palm fronds so that I could move the antenna through north. These trees down here were a little bushier than they look in the Google Earth picture, as were all these here. There's kind of an area here which you just really can't tell from Google Earth, but these leaves, branches stuck out more this way. And so you can see the beam overhangs the house roof during the moonrise. And when I pointed west, the last director was in these branches, but I don't think that really affected that too much. What the real problem was that I couldn't raise the antenna, because you can see the rear end of it here was going to hit the roof if I elevated it more than 35 degrees. During the last few days of the trip, though, the moon set moved far enough to the north so that the antenna could be swung around and I could just clear the porch and the house by elevating the antenna enough to hit the East Coast moonrise. But then this big baobab tree here was right in the way, and my mast was high enough to look above the crotch of the main trunk. However, the main trunk, I'm talking something like 12 feet in diameter, 15 feet in diameter, and I'm pointed right at it. You'll see a picture of it here in a minute. I'm sure it blocked the ground gain reflections off the ocean, which were coming up from a lower elevation. There's the baobab tree that I had the problems with toward the end of the trip when I was pointed on the horizon. In the beginning of the trip, when I was pointed at the horizon, I was pointed over here to the left, and there's no problem looking through these thin little branches here. And I had great ground gain during moonset. It was super. So Tuesday afternoon, after we arrived at the place around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We had no problem with customs, or there was no customs, because it was part of France and we left from France. So it was like a local flight. But we had problems finding the car rental place and getting the car rented, and then making our way down the length of the island. But anyway, we got there at 1, and I started setting things up. And by Tuesday afternoon, I had the mast assembled, everything located properly, and guide ready to go up. Just here's a detail of how the guy ring works and the side guys. Mast is on the cradle that I have on top of the prop. This screw eye is where the halyard attaches, and then it just pulls the mast up with a falling derrick. So the next day, I put together the antenna and stepped on a cement block and lifted it up and put it on the mast. And there's my little hinged manual elevation mount you can see here, and it's on the mast. And that's what it looked like when it was on the mast, ready to be put up. You have to remember to put on the aiming circle first, because once you get it up there, you can't slip it over the top of the mast or the bottom of the mast. Here's where I put on the last director after the antenna was on the mast on the prop, because there just wasn't clearance. Almost everywhere I go, there's some sort of obstacles in trying to put up this 43-foot long Yagi. But this this was the tightest spot that I've had to deal with. Then before it can be raised, you have to remember to put on the tie down and steering lines. And I attach them to the boom through the screw eyes in the boom that are used for the boom trusses, so that when I pull on the antenna, I'm not bending the antenna down. And this little blue thing here is just the cover on the balun lead. So then I put on the LMR 600 coax and make sure that that's taped down the mast, so that when the antenna is lowered back down into the cradle, you don't cut the coax. So it's got to be on the top side of the mast. And there you can see the halyard is attached with a S hook to the screw eye. And this is the antenna raising, but I don't know, Paul, do you want to, maybe we shouldn't bother with this. We've had so much trouble trying to share the screen to start with. I don't want to jinx it.
I think it'll be okay. Just hang there. I'm gonna stop your sharing, and all you have to do is turn your sharing back on again.
Okay.
So, stand by.
Okay, I'll try it. Or I'll have you try it.
There you go.
So there's the falling derrick, and the halyard is run up over top of the falling derrick, and I can lift the antenna myself with the falling derrick, but it's nice to have somebody help walk the mast up.
Good thing your wife is strong.
Actually, there's very little pressure on it at all, but it does help. Do you want to turn up your volume a little bit, Paul, just for future when you share these videos?
Roger, Roger.
Okay, you can switch back now that we've got the antenna up.
Hello, every pro is an MVP.
Okay.
So we're ready for action. We've got the, do you see the antenna up in the air now?
Not yet. Just-
You lost the presentation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just-
Okay, I lost.
You have to share
Can
again,
you-
Lance.
Paul, do you turn me on for sharing, or?
No, you can share. I've just stopped sharing and you're ready to share now.
Okay,
Hit your share button.
let's
It's coming.
try that.
It's coming. There you go. You're up.
Is it?
Perfect. Keep going.
Okay, here we go. So we're ready for action. So I set up the ham shack in the living room at the far end of the house. I had 75 feet of LMR 600. So I was able to reach the farthest end of the house. And this just shows how much space the station takes up. It's pretty compact. So this is just a list of what I had. The 6M8GJ with a manual hinged elevation mount and 24-foot mast, the LMR 600 coax. I was using an ELAD FDM Duo SDR transceiver as the transmitter to give me 3 watts. The modified ARR preamp ahead of the AirSpy R2 SDR receiver. A Meanwell RSP 3000 watt 48 volt power supply, which I turned up to 57 volts for, which was its maximum voltage to run the amplifier, which was a custom DX shop DXpedition amplifier. And I took a bird watt meter that I had mounted in a little lightweight aluminum box, and my 13-inch laptop, and I built a little switch box for the PTT using reed relays, so they'd be actual hard contacts to key my preamp and the amplifier, but would be very, very low power consumption. So Paul, I'm going to need to have you take over the screen here. I'm going to stop the share. If you could run the tour of the Airbnb and make sure you got plenty of volume.
All right, sure.
We don't need to see that one quite yet, Paul.
Okay. It's all yours.
Okay. So here, just to give you an idea, I don't know how well you can see this or how big your monitors are, but on Moonset on Friday, September 9th, this was like my second Moonset, I guess. The moon was still, Moonset was kind of still in between those light branches, and the ground gain was great when I was on the horizon. And you see a bunch of stations there. You can see them on the waterfall. You can see them decoded over here. There's John. Darn it, John. We should have completed. But the problem was just trying to work everybody as fast as I could, and that was a problem. That was one of the problems. So, but there were a lot of people on. So one of the goals that I had was to try to, since my moonset was moonrise across North America, I was hoping to be able to work a lot of horizon only stations. But as it turned out, I couldn't elevate high enough to get the moonrise in most of the country. I could hit the moonrise like west of the Mississippi. So it just was a problem that way. Here you can see how close the antenna is to the rooftop when I turn it around to the east, and you can see the big baobab tree between me and the ocean. I tried to see if I could finagle the antenna around and elevate it enough to hit the East Coast moonrise. And unfortunately, I couldn't aim below 65 degrees because of the house construction that was in the way. And I needed to hit 60 degrees for moonrise on the East Coast. So that was a problem. And for most of the trip, I couldn't, as I said before, I couldn't elevate above 35 degrees because the reflector was laying on the top of the roof. But as the day passed, you can see the antenna swinging around, and it's giving me a little bit more clearance to sneak by the porch roof here. But I finally did get clearance to do that, but then I am blocked by the baobab tree when I'm aimed at the horizon. But I did work 2 stations in Maine near the end of the trip because I was able to elevate it. This is just a picture of the beach in front of the house. This is the north end of the beach. And this is the baobab tree right, right in front of the antenna at high tide. So you can see it was not very far from the ocean. But this beach was a very, very popular place. You know, it's on the map as the Boensatva beach. So the entry was right next to the house. So there was always lots of activity on the beach, and lots of car batteries on the beach where people would bring their stereos and set up and have fires on the beach and parties and so on. So we went snorkeling with turtles when the moon was not up. And, you know, when we went to the famous place for seeing the turtles at that beach, which was only about 10 minutes down the road, in Guja Beach, almost all of the turtles there that we saw had these remoras, or, you know, symbiotic fish cleaning their shells with them. Some of the bigger ones even had 2 of these fish on them, had one on the bottom and one on the top. Now I'm going to try to play this myself because it's very, very short. So we'll see if this would work. This is just to give you an idea. This is just in the yard looking at these trees toward the beach. And here's a lemur over here. And he was getting up courage and studying the branches for about 15 seconds before he jumped. And we'll see if you can, well, no, wait a minute. That didn't work. Let me try it one more time here. I don't know. Were you able to see him jump?
No, we didn't.
Okay. So Paul, why don't you show this leaping lemurs thing? This is give you an idea what went on near sunset every night in front of the house here. I don't know if you can see the video or not. I'm just seeing kind of a jerky thing here, but
I think it's going okay.
Looking good.
the lemurs were pretty interesting to us because we'd never seen them before. So that was kind of an interesting thing. Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Can you see the Maki and pizza place?
Yes.
We finally found this place. It was really, really difficult to find, even though we had Waze on our phones, which worked as long as we had internet and we could put all the maps in our cell phones. We drove around through these side streets like 3 times before we finally found it. But the people there were very, very friendly, and they made great pizzas, and we went there several times. We also discovered this plastic bottle over here to the left of the picture is something that you don't want to put on your pizza. It's like deathly hot sauce. And I'm not quite sure why anybody would put that on their pizza, but it's really killer. Okay, and the antenna lowering, I don't think we need to see that. You can imagine what that looks like. Then on Sunday, September 8th, we took down the antenna on the 17th on Saturday. On Sunday, we drove up the island to the airport. I don't know that we need to see this video, so we'll just, here are a couple still shots from the drive along the East Coast to give you an idea what the countryside looks like. Passing through little villages. It is Sunday barbecue by the road. Mile markers about every kilometer. And there we are waiting to check our luggage for the flight in the airport. And that's our plane waiting to take off to go to Paris. And all the flights connected, and the only delay was from Dallas to Missoula, but that was fine. It was only an hour late. So the challenges that I had when I got set up in Mayotte were, it was right in the beginning. As soon as I got on, I had birdies all across the waterfall, and I was really worried where they might be coming from. But later in the evening, they disappeared. So they were obviously being propagated from someplace, but I don't know where. But they were spaced out, like I think every 50 hertz. And then the next night, I had a different set of birdies spaced every 70 hertz. So there was some different channel 1 transmitter spurious signals or something coming in from a different area. And so I was just hoping that those would go away, and eventually they did. The high TEC above the QTH there in the TEP zone really made EME very difficult before midnight. And all the TEP stuff that I had was before midnight, and all the birdies that I had from wherever were before midnight. The best time for EME in the TEP zone is always between midnight and moon and sunrise. Unfortunately, that for some stations, they didn't have the moon then, so it was really tough to work the South Pacific and Asia, because by the time it came to past midnight, they were losing the moon. Local obstructions such as the house and the big tree disrupted the antenna pattern, and as far as ground gain, I absolutely noticed that their ground gain dropped away when the moon moved further north, and I was pointed into the tree on my when I was on the horizon. Inexperienced DME stations, were a problem. I just hope next time everybody can have some experience and make some contacts before they plug in everything and get on to call me. Because I can't help you troubleshoot stuff when I'm overwhelmed with callers. I had local noise toward the east when I was aimed at moonrise. I think from the neighbor's LED lights or something. I don't know. It wasn't from the basketball court lights, which I was concerned about because they went off at 9:30 every night, but just before the call to prayer. But I did have some noise that must have been from some neighbors in that direction. I made sure that all the local LED lights in the house were turned off whenever I was on EME. I was out on auto sequence and I ran out to adjust the antenna while I was calling K5RK, and I ran back into the house, and there was this huge noise level covering everything, and I thought, oh no. So I ran into the bedroom and lights were off. I ran through the bedroom into the bathroom, and my wife was brushing her teeth, and so I threw her the flashlight and turned off the lights and ran back out just in time to see the RRRs coming through then from K5RK. So it really made a difference to make sure those lights were always off. So the result was K2ZD was the first ever station from the United States to work Mayotte on 6 meters. I made 100 contacts on EME. Some of them were very hard fought because of all the challenges that I had with the high TEC and being in the TEP zone, and things were just it was unknown what all the problems were. I was locked out for forever, it seems, to Finland. I wasn't hearing anybody from Finland, although they could hear me. So, I mean, it was, and I had the same problem with Japan, day after day after day. So it was frustrating. On TEP, the contacts were very, very strong. Of course, my first TEP contact was 9K2G. Yes, he called me off the side of the beam, and he was just terribly loud. The problem was just trying to work through these pileups fast enough. They were, 20 or 25 people each sequence. The smallest EME station I worked was KL7H BHK in Alaska, 6 elements and 1200 watts. It was the first 6 meter EME ever for W7GJ. So congratulations to
Thank you.
Glenn. And this is a picture of the areas that I contacted. 2 ZL stations. How about that? So, I was frustrated by using Q65, and my next DXpeditions, I don't think I'm going to have access to real-time internet. So I can set the computer clock with my GPS unit. I've done that before when I had to, but not having the chat page to know when people are copying me is a big handicap. And so that's one of the questions that I have here, is whether or not there might be some way. I know that the WSJTX development team has no interest in optimizing Q65 for a DXpedition use. So I'm just thinking out loud here. Tim and I tried it the other night, but I couldn't really tell that it was working. Maybe if somebody's hearing me right then, they could press the tune button after their Q65 message ends, and I could get 5 to 10 seconds worth of the single tone for the tune. Maybe that would show me that station was copying. I need to experiment more with that.
Hey, Lance, you should maybe consider Starlink.
They probably don't have coverage down there.
It doesn't work down in the southern hemisphere.
Not yet.
No, I think somebody told me that they were planning to do something down there, but it wasn't on yet. But it sure would be nice if there was a way to do these things without having real-time internet. Also, the average feature does not work with constantly changing messages in Q65, which is bad for everybody. And so, if people are changing their message to show me that they're copying, the problem with that is that my copying that message changes my average of receiving them, and so that just screws up the average for me. And of course, I know that people are having a hard time with receiving my signal in their average, because I'm continually calling different people to try to figure out who's copying. So I'm wondering if maybe the contest mode would be a way to solve that problem. All the callers would always be calling me with the same message. If that's the case, they'd just be calling me with their grid square. So my averages would be unchanging. So that would help me. And if they could, punch their tune button on the WSJTX screen for the last 10 seconds, and that could show me that they're copying me, then I would be able to know who to go back to right away. But I don't know about that. That's just an idea. The contest mode would make things faster too. And when we have situations where I'm trying to work a pile of horizon only stations as the moon is moving by, I have to try to make the contacts fast, and this would be one way to speed things up. But I don't know if we need to have numbered reports for DXpedition contacts or not. I don't know how people feel about that, and I don't know how people in Europe would feel about that. I don't know. And does anybody else have any other thoughts about how we can make Q65 a better VHF DXpedition mode? I mean, there's always the possibility you could go back to JT65A and there, you know, I could get assistance from call3.txt and see who these people were that are calling. You know, I wish there was a way for Q65 to look up in call3.txt, but that's absolutely not a possibility, at least as far as K1JT is concerned. So one of the great things about Q65 is that I can move from contact to contact and make contacts at multiple stages. You know, I can leave a contact, work somebody else, come back to that contact, and finish the first contact, because it sends all sets of calls. On JT65, it's a little more complicated because you're just sending like RO or something, and nobody then would know who the RO is going to. So Q65 does have some advantages, but it also has some frustrations when you have a pile up. Its main design and its main assets are on one-to-one schedule situations, and when you have a pile up of 10 or 20 stations calling you, it is a little more challenging. So what's next? Well, I've been working with the people in Tristan da Cunha, and that's a possibility for next fall. I've been approved by the Island Council to go there. I won't know until June if my wait list place for a berth on the ship from South Africa gets approved. So, and I don't know I'm trying to explore places where I might be able to set up there and have enough room to put up the antenna. So that's an issue too. One place where I would have enough room to set up the antenna is Rodrigue 3B9. And I found a good spot to set up there. So right now I'm looking at that as a fallback position, but both of those locations have never been worked to the United States on 6 meters before. So I figure that they're pretty rare, at least over here. And I think that they're probably pretty rare in Asia and South Pacific too. I know a lot of people in Europe have already worked them, but there's probably a good number that would still be happy to work them. So those are my thoughts on what's in the works, and I wonder if anybody's got any comments or questions. Well, if not, it's been great talking with you.
You do EME from home?
I'm sorry?
You do EME from your home?
Yeah, I can do EME from here. I've got the antenna untied right now.
Lance, this is Rick. I had a comment.
Yes, go ahead, Rick.
If you can't get on the media, the social media or whatever from your location, is there a way that there could be a designated, lead station, drive, whatever, who can coordinate people who are trying to call you and say, okay, you go here, you go there, whatever. Just a thought. I realize it gets to be touch and go to make sure you don't communicate things over the internet that shouldn't be, but maybe a guide station or something trying to keep people separated frequency wise.
Well, Rick, that's done already. People with with home stations that have the internet can get on the ON4KST
Okay.
EME chat page, and they do a wonderful job of coordinating among themselves and spreading out beautifully across the bandwidth. As you saw in that picture of during my moonset, the stations were all spread out, gorgeous. I mean, it was just beautiful. There was no chance of QRM or anything. What my point was, though, that was if I don't have access to the internet, I won't know which stations are copying me at a given time. Right now, often people will send me a report on the chat page. They'll say that I'm 23, minus 23 or something. That tells me that they are copying, and I could probably reply to them and work them in a minute or 2 minutes and move on to somebody else. But without that feedback, there's no way really to tell, unless I can decode a message from them that says that they're sending me a report or something like that.
So
In
Lance,
in JT65, there was a way to do that, but not in Q65.
so Lance, have you thought about getting a satellite phone with texting capability and people could text you?
I had that when I went to Follow-Up Island at V6M, but I'm not sure. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I guess that could be done.
And while you're my point was, yes, everybody can work together, but my point was maybe a designated guide who this is the person that if there's a question or whatever, this is the person that you're going to look to organize and whatever, and maybe a guide who could, if you had the text phone, you could be one person you communicate with instead of lots. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But that's my thought.
Yeah, Rick, the situation isn't solved by a pilot station. That's basically, you're talking about a pilot station, and the pilot station would not be able to know who I could copy right then. He might be able to receive, information from 5 people that are copying me right then. But what really would help me is if there were some way for me to see from each individual station that was copying right then, that I could reply to them faster and work them right then.
Okay, and I appreciate that. Not being the
Maybe-
enemy person, I'm
Maybe,
watching this and just thinking, go ahead.
Maybe looking at PSK reporter would also be helpful, because that gives you flags wherever you are received. So I noticed
Yeah,
in that way that you copied my signal at a certain moment.
Yeah, I kept that on this time. I mean, there was some talk about when I was in French Polynesia last year about how, oh, Lance, you shouldn't run PSK reporter because then people can see when you're hearing when you're hearing them. And that's kind of a false thing. I mean, but actually it's not, because some of the people that when it shows on PSK Reporter, maybe I got one decode from the guy and that's all I got. And so, but
Yeah,
it'll
okay,
show
but
on
the-
PSK Reporter. So.
And then you at least see he saw me 15 minutes ago, so the chance that he sees me now is not too big.
Yeah. Yeah, if but if I don't have internet, I can't
then it
post
doesn't work.
PSK Reporter. So, and I can't
Oh.
see it anyway. So,
True.
the reason I brought this up is because in ZD9, I will not have internet access. I will not have real-time internet access. It does not exist. I think they have it available at the main government building between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. or something like that. And so if the moon is not up at that time, I will be able to go there and update my my log and let people know who I've contacted. But it won't tell me while I'm operating, it won't help me at all. And I don't know about 3B9. I'm just assuming that I might not even be able to get to some place to update my log from 3B9. So so it's just something to keep in mind. If people can come up with a good idea, or somebody who's good at modifying the open source WSJTX, it sure would be great to have a different version to take out on the DXpeditions that gave me a little bit more information.
One thing, you mentioned about getting into trouble with averaging. But the implication there is that you really shouldn't be running averaging if you're on the DXpedition side, and maybe even us, in this pile-up situation. Averaging really isn't applicable, and so you can just turn it off. There's something to lose there, but really, it isn't helping you anyway. So you might as well just, eliminate the frustration and disable averaging and move on. Unless somebody in the development team is willing to, lend a hand to optimize this, you're kind of faced with unpleasant choices.
Yeah, the averaging for the callers is a difficult situation, and K4RX will testify to this. He said he turned off the averaging and immediately saw me calling him. So for the callers, when I'm changing the messages all the time, callers should probably not be running the averaging. The averaging, though, on my end, the way it works, and they have done a lot of work on that part, they did go as far as to average the callers at each of the offset frequencies.
Yeah, but if you're changing messages like you suggest, which is a good idea, that that defeats the whole purpose. Which is more important, knowing who's hearing you, or being able to have an average of that works and the message remains constant. You pick one or two.
If you were to call just with your grid square, for example, always, rather than trying to change your message,
you don't know who's hearing you.
No, but I would if we could develop some other way, like pushing the tune button at the end of the message or something like that.
Good
so
luck.
that I could see. Yeah. Well, I just need to experiment with that more, I think, because if all the power is in one line, it should be a nice bright blast there at the end of the sequence.
Yeah, you'll see
And
it.
they
But will
do-
it screws up the decoder, we think.
Well, we don't know that for sure. We
Yeah,
don't know that for sure.
Yeah, it's just
I-
one data point.
I don't think it should screw things up because like you said the other day, I mean, there could be lots of QSB over the course of a transmit period then where signals will go up and down all the time. And so, you know, the fact that we're adding a constant tone at the end, you know, I'll check on that, but you know, they also have shorthand messages built into Q65, and they're primarily for just microwave stations to find each other before the schedule. But there might be a way to utilize that function too. I'm not quite sure.
Well,
have
I mean,
to look
the
into
other
it.
thing you have to consider is that, as you said, I mean, not everybody has the same level of expertise when they're operating. And for you to put this additional requirement on them that says they have to click the tune button in the last 8 seconds is just going to cause more confusion. You know, so I mean, that's something to consider.
Yep. It is. It does make things more complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people get confused just with the basic rule that says, call me with TX2 if you hear me and TX1 if you don't, you know, and I mean, I'm not a big fan of complicating things.
Yeah, I'm not either. It would be nice if it were more simple.
Yeah.
But you know, 6 meter EME is not simple. So
No.
we're trying to do something that's really, really difficult. And it's the worst band for EME, but by golly, it's about the only way you're going to make a contact on the other side of the world on 6 meters if you're not in the TEP zone. Even if you are in the TEP zone, it's probably, you know, very highly unlikely that you're going to work the other side of the world at a particular time. So
yeah, I mean, assuming that we can't come up with any other alternatives, you know, I mean, disabling the average function during the DXpedition for both sides seems to be a reasonable compromise. I mean, it's not intended to work for DXpeditions and pileups. It's a point-to-point thing.
yeah, that's true.
Well,
anyway,
everybody wants that 3 dB, but
I know. I've all along, since 2002, I've been asking Joe, can we just have 1 more dB, just 1 more dB, just a half a dB more, you know? And he's heard it all from me. So we're trying to do more with less here all the time. But anyway, I will keep everybody posted on how things progress for the next spot. And in the meantime, please just, you know, do your best to build up your station and build a bigger antenna. That
will happen. That's
yeah, put up those 4 antennas, Martin, and ZL1RS will come up with a brand new Yagi, undoubtedly, that just does super things, and like he always does. And
he makes it work with dipoles. He doesn't need new Yagis.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, thank you very much for everybody that tried. For those of you that I didn't work, I'm really, really sorry. But I stayed up all the time, and I tried the best I could. So that's about all I can do.
Hey, thanks a lot for putting all this together, Lance. This is awesome. And it's amazing what you do. So thank you very
It's
much.
stupid what I do, but
Yeah, I'm just going to turn off the recording now, and I'm going to just leave it open for open discussion. And if anybody wants to hang around, we can have a round table or whatever you like. I've got a sleeping boy behind me, so I'm going to have to cut out of here. But I'll just leave the Zoom on as long as you guys need it.